Excellent. Welcome, everybody. It's 4 o'clock. We're going to get started here in a moment. We'll be joined by Patrick Kelly from the St. Lawrence County IDA, who will walk us through this virtual networking event, Making It in St. Lawrence County, Best Practices for Manufacturers. I am Tricia Wilson with the New York Power Authority, and I am your tech guru for the day, so bear with me as we go through the process. I did put a note in the chat screen if, as we go through today's presenters, if you have a question, you can put it down in the chat and we will cover all the questions at the tail end. And certainly if you have any comments or have any technical difficulties, please just send me a chat in that chat screen. And with that, I'll turn it over to you, Patrick.
Thank you very much, Trish. First of all, welcome again, everybody. Thank you for participating. This session comes out of some of the actual in-person mixer events we've done a year or so ago. The idea being, it's clear to us that companies learn as much or more from one another, certainly about their own practices and about doing business, than they do from economic developers or us talking to them about our programs. So the idea was we had tried to get people together in various forums to talk about, in some cases, their experience with our programs and services, but more just in general about different challenges that companies face in St. Lawrence County. Because of the distances between our communities and between the employers, sometimes it's harder to have the relationships and the networking and the familiarity with your counterparts and your peers in business throughout the county. So we had tried to set up opportunities for people to hear from one another, to get to know a little more about different operations and different activities that had been undertaken to sort of meet the challenges of doing business in Northern New York. And this is that idea brought to this virtual forum. We have been in touch with, I think, every manufacturer in the county, and many other operations in the county, hearing about what they are doing to deal with the challenges relating to running facilities, workforce, marketing, finance. This has been obviously an extraordinary time, and the opportunity to hear from 4 or 5 different companies about things that they have done, we thought was a good way to share, call them best practices, call them good ideas, call it whatever you want, but the idea being, let them tell their stories and let people ask questions, let you all learn from one another. And we have a fair amount of the development infrastructure in the county on board for this call as well, because we can learn from what you're doing and hopefully share those stories and ideas with others who may not be on the call today. So before I finish up here, I want to thank the Chamber of Commerce and the Small Business Development Center helped put this event together with us. They've been very active on the reopening task force that we've been utilizing within the county to sort of unite the public health efforts with the economic development efforts to get the economy back in motion as safely as possible. I want to thank Trish Wilson from the New York Power Authority. Obviously, Trish has been a key partner in virtually all of our activities. And she is the one, as she said, she's running the technology and the traffic today. So if I get too long-winded here, she'll mute me and save you from listening to too much more. Before she does that, I want to thank John Pinkerton, Lori Sibley, Brian Norton from my staff, because they put a lot of effort into reaching out to people and securing commitments from our panelists and making sure that some of the other people on the call today knew about this call and had the opportunity to participate as well. Most of all, obviously, though, I want to thank our panelists. You'll see on the screen, we have DeFelsko Corporation, Dunn Paper Natural Dam, North American Forest Group, and Seaway Pharma. And with our first speaker is going to be Pat Curran. Pat represents Curran Renewable Energy, Seaway Timber Harvesting, Curran Logging, North American Forest Group. As you'll hear from Pat a little bit about his background and their operations, I'll start by saying Pat is one of the true building blocks we have for our economy in St. Lawrence County. Pat keeps his eyes open for ideas, not just for his company, but for us, for ways we can work together. He's been a very positive influence on the economy in Messina and with his expansion in the town of Oswegatchie and throughout the North Country. So we're fortunate to have Pat on the call today and certainly running one of our major operations in St. Lawrence County. With that, Pat, I'll turn the microphone and the camera over to you.
Well, I want to thank you for giving me an opportunity to speak here. And thank everybody who wants to listen. Geez, that's a very nice picture down there looking at the St. Lawrence River and looking across to Canada. Isn't that beautiful?
I thought you meant the picture of yourself. You look
No.
That's a nice shot too.
No, but anyway, we're first of all a timber harvesting company that started back in the mid 80s, and we worked our way up to a point where we outgrew our local paper mill. So we started delivering fiber to other mills further away, and then back about 15 years ago, the paper mill in Cornwall closed. And that put us in a situation where all of our fiber was being trucked long distance. And we did that for a few years and realized that to be able to sustain ourselves, we had to try to do something else. So the pellet plant was put together in 2007 and 2009. We started producing. And as we look at it today on the pellet side, without having this opportunity, it'd be pretty tough. With COVID virus, we've seen our paper market being mainly fine paper almost go away. So the pellet factory that we're running today is keeping our forest side running. And a couple of years ago, we decided to get into building or trying to produce lumber. So the county, with Patrick Kelly and his staff, helped me acquire the old ACO building in Ogdensburg along the river. And as we're going, we have a small sawmill set up there right now. Our plan is to add a few more pieces of equipment to the line to make things a little more user-friendly and less labor involved. So we're hoping by late fall, we'll have a semi-automated sawmill ready to go. And I believe with the forest operation that we have, the vertical integration with being able to take some of these saw logs that are sent to Canada now to be processed here, I should be able to employ a few more people in the Ogdensburg area, and at the same time be able to totally utilize all of the fiber that we are producing. Mind you, the sawdust and the wood chips coming out of the sawmill will be great furnished for the pellet mill here. And as it stands today, we're producing all that fiber and we don't get the opportunity to use it. And we haven't put together any great long-term markets or short-term markets for the lumber that will be produced, but I really feel that the timing is good. And I think the product that we will produce will, very well meet the market demand that's out there. And as far as the pellet factory, we have now gone up to 6 and 7 days a week, 24 hours a day with the production that with the market that we have. So it's a very good feeling to have right now when you have a situation where, 4 months ago, oil was at $11 a barrel, and it was a pretty scary time. So we're really optimistic that this year should turn out pretty good, and hopefully we're not wrong there. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat. And I have a question that's popped up. What is a semi-automated sawmill?
Well, right now when we have it, the way it's set up right now, we're basically, when the lumber is sawed, it's all manual. And with some tables that are coming in and conveyors, there'll be a lot of it automated so that the only thing that a man will have to touch at that point is just lumber that's going to be sliding on tables instead of actually carrying the lumber off the saw. So what I'm trying to do is restrict as much labor as possible. And I'm not trying to prevent hiring people. I just don't want to kill people by adding extra work to their body.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you. And what our plan is to do, we'll do, for the most part, questions at the end in sort of a round table format. But if something specific about a presentation comes up, we may ask it when people are done. Our next presenter is Michael Beamish. Mike is the Vice President and General Manager of DeFelsko Corporation. They're based in Ogdensburg. They're a manufacturer of paint test instruments, which they sell globally. I will tell anybody, if you haven't seen their recently expanded headquarters building, you should. It is, and I'm not disparaging anybody else's buildings, but it is one of the nicest buildings, I think, north of Syracuse. They did a fantastic job when they expanded, and it really has certainly dressed up the Commerce Park in Ogdensburg. Mike has degrees in mechanical engineering and law, and he has experience in the design, manufacture, and marketing of the company's products. And Mike, if you would take it away from here.
Hey, great, thanks. And yeah, I've been unmuted too. Thanks, Pat, for the introduction, and to the whole group for joining and listening. As Pat mentioned, I'm with DeFelsko Corporation, and if I have control, with any luck, I can advance the, hey, look at that, I can advance the slideshow here. So that's the aforementioned building there that we built back in 2015. On the right side of the, very right side of the image, you can see our previous building that we built at this location back in 1994. We've been around since 1965 here in Ogdensburg, when my grandfather, Frank Kosh, who's on the right side of the slide there, founded the company. And what we do is we manufacture, right here, instrumentation for the coating inspection industry, which sounds really, really niche, but it's actually surprisingly ubiquitous because almost everything you look at, especially outdoors, is coated with something, generally in a process environment or in an environment where the coating has to perform to specification to prevent, usually the most important thing to prevent is corrosion. And doing that, it generally happens on contract. If anybody's been near Ogdensburg, you might see that the Ogdensburg Bridge is being repainted. That's exactly the type of area where our instruments would be used to check how much paint was applied after it's been painted. But even before that, to check what the surface profile, the peak and valley profile that's created when they blast the steel prior to painting and clean the old paint off, the environmental conditions that are on the site while they're painting. You need to make sure that there's no condensation potentially forming, and then testing the adhesion of the paint thereafter. So all of these instruments are required and used all around the world, but manufactured right here in Ogdensburg. So this next slide here, this is what we show our international dealer network when they're here. Now it makes a little bit more sense to those on the call, but of course there you see the Ogdensburg-Johnstown Bridge, and just off the bridge to the left where the icon is, that's us right on the border here. And loading slowly, there we go. I'm gonna go through these slides really quickly because I don't have much time, so some I'm gonna skip. But our goal is to do everything under this one location. So that includes our sales and dealer support team. While we do some direct sales, primarily and especially internationally, we work through a network of distributors, and our team here supports them and provides them whatever they need to support their end customer in whatever that end customer is speaking. All of our research and development on site, we have a team of engineers that are just down the hallway from me that design and oversee the manufacture of all of our instruments. And we do, of course, as I said, all of our manufacturing here. So this is just one of our production rooms, and it's a lot of hand assembly, skilled soldering, skilled circuit manufacture, that sort of thing, and also the construction of our probes. There is very little offshore content, and where there is outside content, it usually comes from the Northeast, from within a 4-hour radius, machine parts, et cetera, excuse me. Quality is a big thing. I'm not going to skip that here because that's mostly for our dealers, but of course we're obsessive about quality here, selling quality test equipment. A few more pictures here of our on-site manufacturing, pictures taken from around the facility of our probes being created and our products being created there. We market all across the world, and our instruments are in all sorts of trade magazines, which, although print, some people say print is dead, that really doesn't apply to industry magazines and that sort of thing, where that still is the main way that information is communicated. So we heavily do that. Here's an overview of all of our product names. Obviously, given the time, I'm not going to go through all of them. I'll show some pictures of some new products. This is just what we came out with in 2019. We are heavily invested in continuing to expand our product line, and so our research and development team is really our key to our continued growth and success. And yeah, here's a couple more images of some products. On the, just for example, on the the 3 on the left are for measuring the thickness of metal, which is a really, not that exciting when you can just use a caliper and pick it up and see what the thickness is, but it's a really big deal when you have a pipeline and there's no way you can get to the other side. So that is, I won't get on to Matthew's slides, but that's DeFelsko in a nutshell. And we've been doing it pretty much without interruption for 50 years and have seen continued growth. And when COVID hit, it was a real surprise for us because prior to this, we somewhat considered ourselves a recession-proof business. In 08, 09, and 2010, we saw a minor blip of single-digit percentage drop in sales before a really, really quick growth thereafter. And that's largely because of our industrial focus. We aren't consumer focused. But in this case, with COVID, with everything shutting down, suddenly we saw half of our sales evaporate really in the matter of a week. And not only that, because New York was at the epicenter of COVID, at least as far as North America was concerned, we were seeing the regulations and the real concern about transmission getting very serious before many of our customers were experiencing the same thing. So as many of you on the call might fondly remember that lovely week where it was first, we had to decrease our staffing by 50%, and then a day later by 75%. And then a day later, we're told to shut down. Fortunately, John Pinkerton, much to his credit, did encourage us. You guys, what you do is probably considered essential. And we got our essential business designation a few minutes before the full business shut down. And so we continued operating throughout the pandemic. We overnight sent all of our office employees to work from home for the first time in our corporate history and moved to shift to de-densify our facility. Overnight, for the very first time, we suddenly had 2 shifts in the course of a few days. But through all of that, we were able to keep full employment and keep manufacturing because while we did see sales decrease substantially, at least in the short term, since we are a worldwide business, our business in Asia really didn't change much. South Korea, you wouldn't really have noticed from their sales. It's just a straight line right through the pandemic. And China, Thailand, a lot of those other countries really did stay rather stable. If not, they had a small blip. Of course, meanwhile, South America fell off the map and continues to have fallen off the map, and everybody else was somewhat in the middle. But because an essential business, we were allowed to keep operating really within our own rules because nobody had come up with it yet. And we implemented, of course, we moved to shift. That was just by choice for safety reasons. We staggered entry and exits from the building, breaks and lunches. We implemented one-way traffic in a lot of the building. We moved, you might have seen a picture a couple slides back of our production area. Suffice it to say, it looks nothing like that now because we've moved all the desks to make sure there was 6-foot spacing, et cetera. And that happened overnight. It was a really inspirational effort by our employees. And the sum total was that once the regulations did come out for manufacturers, we were already compliant. I think all that we needed to change were a couple signs and now a lot more paperwork. But hey, that's the game we play, and that's no big deal. and it's been a steady return to normal. And over the last, I'd say, 4 weeks, we're seeing what I'd almost consider normal demand for this time of year, which is really great to see. Asia, Europe, the US have really come back online, and of course North America, so Canada as well. Mexico and South America, frankly, still are not. They're still not in good shape and have been really hurt by this. So it's been an interesting case study watching this happen throughout. And I think I've gone over my allotted time a little bit, so forgive me, but that's how DeFelsko's weathered the pandemic.
Thank you very much, Michael. Very, very informative. We have one two-part question for you.
Okay.
And the first part's probably, it's easy, I think. Are you Canadian, and have you been able to cross the border?
I am indeed Canadian, and I guess you can't see Highway 37 behind me, but I have been able to cross the border because I'm here at work today. As essential workers, we are able to cross. We've self-imposed some limitations on that, so I am working from home several days a week. At the height of this, I was coming in once a week to the office. Really, the main reason was to sign checks, frankly. And as business has picked up, and as certainly over the summer, as the pandemic took a break for a little bit, we've come in a little bit more, but we might have to take that back down as things get more significant. We don't have many Canadian employees. It's really just myself and my mother, who's obviously the second generation of our business's ownership. But 95–96% of our employees are local, so that we're unaffected. And for me, it's been really business as usual coming across the border, except there's no line at customs, which was great until they started working on the bridge. But hey, I can't complain.
It's good to see a silver lining for somebody. Thank you again, and we'll move on to Matthew Hartle. Matthew is the mill director, mill manager at Dunn Paper Natural Dam. Matt attended SUNY Potsdam for physics and Clarkson University for chemical engineering. I told him before the call, those are not looked at as easy disciplines, so that's pretty impressive. He began his career with Dunn Paper 7 years ago. He's worked as a process engineer, a maintenance manager, operations manager, and now up to the point of mill manager. The company is located right outside of Governor. They're a specialty paper manufacturer. With that, Matthew, I will turn it over to you.
All right, thank you. Yeah, so we're right in Governor. The mill's been here for a little more than 100 years. It was a timber mill before, back in the early 1900s, and in the 1950s, we started making tissue paper. So in 1947, we put in a one tissue machine, and then in 1996, we put in another tissue machine. So we have two tissue machines here sitting right side by side. We make about 120 tons per day of tissue, and we employ 90 people. 78 of them are union. They're part of the United Steelworkers Union, and we run 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So what we specialize in making is niche tissue products. So colored tissue for napkins, any kind of tissue you would see at like a bar, like a black napkin or a deep red napkin, that would come from our mill. We also make bonded 2- and 3-ply tissue paper. A lot of that goes into making for printed napkin. So if you see like a Toy Story or something printed on a napkin, almost all of that comes from our mill in Governor. We make medical base sheets. So we would make face mask base sheet. We would make a medical gown base sheet. And we also make a high porosity tissue that's used for pet pad, which is in diapers, which has really taken off in the last couple of years, really. So one of our main products that we make here is the base sheet for the medical gown and face mask. We produce this in a variety of colors. We make the colors you see: blue, pink, yellow, peach. And these have really been at the forefront of the COVID-19 response for a variety of reasons. So we've noticed a higher than usual demand for our product, which has been great because we've seen a big downturn in the colored tissue side because of all the restaurants and the casinos have either been forced to close or they remain closed for concerns around COVID. So, it's been a blessing for us to have that face mask and that pet pad tissue business, because it's helped us stay running. So we haven't had to take any downtime yet. A lot of the other paper mills in the country are suffering because of a lack in demand. So, we're still running strong. We've been lucky enough to have a diversified portfolio over the years, and been quite experimental in the grades that we make, so that we can kind of push through these economic downturns. The biggest challenge we face with COVID-19 is keeping our employees safe and COVID free. I'm sure all of you know, if you have an employee that tests positive for COVID, there's a strict quarantine and tracking procedure, which could affect a whole shift. If we lose one whole shift due to quarantine, we would be unable to run. So what we've done is we've implemented mandatory temperature checks as employees enter work. We actually bought a couple of facial recognition systems and temperature scanning systems. So every employee gets tested before they come into work. We've also implemented timed cleanings throughout the shift with disinfectants, which is not something we had done before. So the employees disinfect their work area. We've also encouraged social distancing. It's not possible at times with the close proximity that we need to work together at, but it has proven effective in break rooms and in areas where people used to congregate. At the beginning of this, we were considered essential business the whole time because of our association with face mask material. So we, like I said, we haven't been able to shut down. The economic uptick has been slower than we would have expected. I think we had expected to see most of this kind of pass, by the end of summer and the beginning of fall, and it's still slow on the colored tissue side and the general napkin side. So, we're hoping that things pick up at our converting facilities. So what we do here is, I didn't explain this very well, but we make big jumbo reels. So we'll make like a 4,000 pound reel that's 12 feet wide. And then we will process it on a rewinder, which is the first picture you saw. And that's where we'll either bond it together and we'll cut it into smaller slit widths. So we may have a couple of 36-inch rolls, 36-inch wide rolls that come off our rewinder. And then that's what we sell to customers throughout the Midwest mostly. There are some converting facilities down in Mexico that we sell to, up in Canada, and way out west in like Nevada and California. So let's see, did I miss anything? The pet pad tissue, we've been lucky, like I mentioned, with everyone, being, especially at the beginning of this in the city, being afraid to venture outside for too long or to come in contact with people, we've seen a huge increase in pet pad tissue. So what that is it's a you may know it's got a super absorbent material in it, and you'll lay it on the floor and you have your pets use that instead of going outside. So we were making approximately 1,000 tons a month of that base tissue there. I was actually thinking about when Pat was talking about selling timber to paper mills. I figured I'd mention we don't have a pulping system here. We don't have digesters. We actually purchase our pulp from Canadian companies that have already digested the log down into a pulp that is usable in just a pulper, which is like a big blender. So I figured I should mention that. I think that's all I have for my presentation. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Matt. I have a question for you.
Yeah.
One of the things that we do sometimes is connect the different manufacturers with some of the resources that are available in the county or regionally. And those resources aren't always financial. Sometimes it's technical assistance. You undertook a project with SciTech. I think it was a water clarification project.
Right.
Can you talk for a minute so some of the other manufacturers who might not have ever worked with somebody like a SciTech understand what the scale of that was or how that helped or what you did with them?
Sure. Yeah. So We use about, we're located on the Oswegatchie River, and we use about 1 to 2 million gallons of water per day in our process. Paper making is an extremely water intensive process. The Oswegatchie River has a very, very yellow cast to it. It's got a lot of dissolved organics inside of it. They're called tannins. So the tannins and the dissolved organics cause issues with our color. So when we have a color to make, such as a bright blue, the yellows in that water will actually leach out into the paper and dull the shade. The opposite of blue is a yellow shade. So when we're trying to make blue, it's hard to hit the spec that the customer wants to make it blue enough. So we worked with SciTech on a water treatment plan, and they helped us out a lot with testing, getting resources from RIT to figure out how to take the tannins out of the water, and they helped us install a water treatment facility on site that we treat the water with a polyaluminum chloride, and then we run it through sand filters, and it takes all of the dissolved organics and the tannins out. It precipitates them out as a solid, and we send that to our wastewater treatment system, and then we use the clean fresh water in our process.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Matt. I appreciate it.
Welcome.
Our next presenter is Charles Sears. Chuck is a graduate of Clarkson University with a Bachelor of Science in Marketing and Management Information Systems, and a graduate of Northeastern University with a master's degree in Business Administration. Chuck is the part owner, CFO, and general manager of Seaway Pharma. You'll see there's a listing of pictures of some of their products that Chuck and Mark are going to talk about, some of which we're utilizing here in the IDA office. And it is nice, much like Dunn Paper has been active in the PPE market, to have another local company that has been able to pivot and be productive with some of these in-demand products is also beneficial for us. Chuck, do you want to take over and tell us a little bit about what's going on with Seaway Pharma?
Sure. Thanks everybody for having me. And I've enjoyed listening to everybody's backgrounds. Some of the stuff that we're doing up here in North Country is very exciting. Seaway Pharma, we were an essential business from the very get-go. As this was coming down, I had reached out to the business. I can't remember the name of the state agency. However, I had reached out to them. They said absolutely, because our main line at the time was nasal sprays, cough syrups, and like a saline nasal spray, all of which were in high demand at the time, still remain to be. Our foray into hand sanitizers wasn't as quick as we had hoped. We had a real hard time sourcing a lot of materials, alcohol, a lot of the components that go into making a gel formulation. It's called a carbomer. Took a long time to find a lot of these things. We could have bought lower quality stuff, but that wasn't we're about quality here. And then you saw about 100 brands of hand sanitizer that were recalled probably within a month or two after the big surge because of use of non-grade materials. So while we might have missed the boat, we did create a solid base for ourselves, and we do have a good business going with hand sanitizer, both liquid, gel, IPA, which is isopropyl alcohol, 70%. We're bottling that here, as well as another alcohol-based product, which is witch hazel. We've seen a big increase in demand for a lot of these products, while staying true to our bread and butter, which is the nasal sprays. You've seen a lot of them in Kinney Drugs, Dollar Tree, Dollar General, Family Dollar. Here's just a few pictures of our plant floor. This is the line where it comes down right here, and you can see right there the labeler. That's the fill machine. So everything is pretty well automated here. These pictures were taken prior to COVID. Luckily for us, our standard operating procedure requires anybody that works in the lab or on the production floor to wear a lab coat, hairnet, face mask, gloves. So COVID didn't really affect us. That was pretty much our standard gear before COVID. and it remains that now. We have added extra measures in as far as temperature screening. The cleaning hasn't changed because we clean our workstations regularly throughout the shift and at the end of each shift. So cleanliness obviously is of utmost importance when you're creating any kind of FDA approved nasal spray that will be ingested into the body. Has to be completely 100% clean. And here's a listing of our products. Some of them, these are all the nasal sprays that we're currently doing or have not have done in the past. Like you see Premier Value, that's the Kinney Drugs brand. Assured is Dollar Tree, Circle K, Low Drug. The one on the very top left is for 7-Eleven convenience stores. So, and we've had standing orders from them this entire time. We've stayed busy. We've employed 50 people throughout this entire pandemic, and yeah, we've been able to stay very busy, which has been very, very fortunate for us. So Mark might want to start taking over on this. This is more of the skin stitch side of which I'm also a part of. But Mark, if Mark is ready to talk, a lot of the hand sanitizer, the liquid that we produce, are used in machines like these, and you might see some of these throughout the county. They've done a very good job selling. If Mark, you want to take over, or you want to jump in?
Yeah, one of the things that we've really worked hard on, to just kind of reiterate what Chuck was saying about the hand sanitizer, is that part of the problem too is that we didn't want to just jump into the market with an inferior product. So there was a lot more R&D. I don't know if many of the people were familiar with the sanitizers that maybe like New York State was putting out, or maybe some breweries or places that were not really caring about like what it smelled like, what was in there. So we were real conscious. We wanted to make sure that we had aloe and vitamin E, and our sprays felt really smooth and silky. Those were things that we're really concerned about. So while we were late, we really felt bad about coming in a little later. We really want to be in this for the long haul to kind of complement the brand that we have with the Skin Stitch line, which some of you may be aware of, some of you may not be. Skin Stitch has really been a pioneer in the medical adhesive industry. Pretty much, you go to a hospital and you get, instead of getting the stitches when they glue your stitches shut, chances are that's Skin Stitch. There's a couple out there, but we're one of the major players in that market all over the world. So Skin Defense came about because we wanted to get into another area, another facet of sort of protecting skin, protecting the environment. So we developed the sanitizer, but on top of developing the sanitizer, we also developed, we designed actually a product here. It's called a mist machine, which is an infrared dispenser and it's on that slide, there's actually at the bottom, it's called the Skin Defense Mist. And it's either a tabletop stand or a wall mount, and it just automatically dispenses a mist of sanitizer either immediately, or if you wanted to place it over a door or a copy machine or something like that, after the person leaves the copier or leaves the door, after a few seconds, it then sprays that and sort of sanitizes it so people aren't having to wipe things down constantly. So we developed that. The other thing is that because of the great need of so many people in the market for PPE and dispensers and things like that, we really spent the last few months just scrambling to try to find sources wherever we could find them, so that local businesses, and we've had a lot in Vermont, we've had a lot on the other side of in Plattsburgh, those areas, a lot of schools and colleges, just scrambling to try to get them what they need. And it's really been hard to find the equipment, but we've been very fortunate. We have a great team here that knows how to find stuff where you need it, they can find it. So we've been able to find and help our customers get dispensers for whether it's liquid or gel, the facial recognition systems. We also have a system where it's a gel dispenser. You put your hand under it, it dispenses gel and takes the temperature so people can see it. And also the K3 forehead scanners, we have those as well. So we've really tried to branch out. We've really tried to find areas that we can help local businesses, all over New York State, really. And actually, even other parts of the country, we have representatives for us that serve other parts of the country. And really helping them to sort of isolate a source where they can be confident that they're going to get something that's a quality product, and especially with the gels and the mist and the liquid products that we have, but also someplace that they can go to so they can get the dispensers and the temperature devices that they need. It's been a tough job, but we've actually been able to source a lot of these things for companies.
Yeah, I just kind of wanted to add on to this real quick too. When he's talking about how tough it was to find some of these materials or these components that go into it, I can't stress how hard it's been since probably mid-February when news of COVID really started hitting around the country. A lot of these companies that we buy, say, a bottle for nasal sprays or a bottle for cough syrups, or even the bottles for hand sanitizer, we weren't the only ones looking for them. And they always weren't able to be made as fast as people wanted them or in the quantities that we wanted. For instance, I just received an order this morning of these 2-ounce baby cough syrup bottles. I ordered those back in May. So that's quite a long lead time. Our customer, thank God, has stayed with us, didn't cancel the order. We're able to start producing them today, but components, materials, we saw a big price increase, supply and demand. The supply was very low, demand was very high. Price went skyrocketing on a lot of product. However, we were able to navigate, like Mark said, we kind of worked as a collective brain trust and trying to source a lot of these things, materials, to make sure that we could keep our costs low, but at the same time deliver a quality product to everybody, not just here in the North Country, but throughout the whole country, really.
Yeah, well, what's kind of ironic about that is that, like even with our sanitizer product, even though things are getting harder to find, because like Chuck says, we've worked really hard to find stuff, we've actually lowered the price, our retail price on these products and for the distributors, when everybody else was increasing. Because like I said, we really want to be in this for the long haul. We really, and we don't want to be gouging people and say, hey, we can make a quick dollar. But despite in fact, we do everything, between Seaway and Skin Stitch, we do everything here. So like we design the bottles, we design everything, all that stuff is done right here. And just to tell out how tough it is, especially on Chuck, recently we designed a 16-inch or a 16-ounce bottle. We ordered the bottles, we had the label design. The bottle that came in didn't match the label. So now we have to scramble to find the bottle that matches the label. But in the meantime, get a label done that matches the bottle. It's just how tough it's been to get things done. But again, we got a great team of people that work really hard. And I know here we work 20 hours a day, it seems like. So we work really hard at trying to find that stuff for these customers. And that's one of the nice things about here too, is like even with our customers, we have customers all over the world. They have our cell phone numbers. If I'm, taking my wife through the Adirondacks on the weekend, I can get a call from somebody from, Dubai, and they're asking me, so it's just, we really try to be responsive, regardless who the customer is. If they've got a problem, they have a question, they have a need, we're really responsive to whatever the customer needs. Because it's nice being a small company that can do that with a lot of customers throughout the world, but we still try to keep that small company feel.
Yep. I guess that's all we have as far as our presentation goes. If there's any questions, sure.
Perfect. Well, thank you guys very much. I guess the question is, if somebody's interested in these products at a local, to utilize them at a local facility, that previous screen is the best way to get a hold of you?
Yes, absolutely. You can reach out to me. We do have, and actually it would be preferable to reach out to me. I know we do have a few contacts here, but like Shrikant is our product development. We keep him in the lab under lock and key. He can't come out, only maybe maybe a couple hours a day. And so yeah, you might want to reach out to me. But yes, I can point you in the right direction, and we can get you anything you need.
Perfect. Thank you both very much.
Thank you.
What I would say is at this point, I would open up the floor to any of the attendees. If anybody has any questions, they can unmute and ask. We have one. What, if any, impacts have there been supply and demand for any of you, any of the four, with the Canadian border being closed?
I personally we haven't been affected at all by the Canadian border, luckily. I'm actually able to go through too, as I'm a dual citizen. So I haven't seen any personal or anything affecting my business, luckily.
I mean, commercial traffic has been essentially uninterrupted. So I'm sure from a supply chain perspective, it's probably things may be getting back and forth a little quicker without some of the passenger car traffic.
Yeah, and in fact, I would say that the only impact I've had was I just had a container come through Montreal, and they had a strike up there recently, so I had to wait an extra 2 weeks to get my product from them. But other than that, I haven't had any issues.
That was a big issue, though. That was a big issue.
That was a big issue. Yes.
We buy natural dam buys thousands of tons of Canadian northern hardwood, and we haven't had any kind of transportation issues. A lot of our vendors come from Canada, so like technical expertise. They've been limiting their travel, but everyone's available by video chat and phone nowadays, so we haven't seen any interruptions in our commercial aspect.
Question.
The same here. We
Go ahead, Michael.
do purchase. Oh, sorry if I interrupted anybody, but we do purchase quite a bit of material from the local area in Canada. Aside from a few near Montreal suppliers, just had outbreaks in the facility and had to close for a period of time, but we purchased months out, so that wasn't a big issue, although a little bit nerve-wracking at the time. But no, the border is wide open as far as commercial traffic, so it's just the tourists that aren't coming across.
How about any workforce challenges? We've heard.
Yes.
There's two sides of the workforce issue right now. We hear where the unemployment rates are, and we know the disruption people have seen because of that. However, we also know from talking with companies that sometimes those unemployment rates don't necessarily translate into an abundance of workers. Why don't we start? We'll start, Pat Curran, why don't we start with you, and then we'll go around the group.
This is the first time I've ever seen a workforce challenge. And what it comes down to, it's not that I need a lot of extra hands right now, but I'm not seeing anybody applying.
Mm-hmm.
In the last 6 months, we've had 4 people apply, 2 of which we hired. And it was nothing to see, a dozen people apply a week looking for different positions. And what I'm really running into right now is truck driving. And that's going to be a very big obstacle for myself and maybe other companies going forward. In the next month, I am losing 2 drivers, both going to municipalities, which I can't blame the drivers. They can better themselves and they can have a long career at whatever they're going to do, knowing that the government job isn't going to go away. But, when you have a really decent man and he's picked like that, it's really tough to replace today. And I think, John has brought up in the past some opportunities to get involved training drivers, and I've kind of overlooked it some, but I can no longer overlook it. I'm going to have to look for any help I can from the county to try to start filling these positions.
Yeah, and I would be remiss if I didn't point out the Crest Center at SUNY Canton is now starting their second class of CDL training. The first class finished and the second group is coming in. They have their own trailer that was donated by Pepsi. They're acquiring a truck with some funding through the River Valley Redevelopment Agency. And that is I think a great opportunity for anybody who has individuals that you would like to refer into that program for their CDLA. It's local. The days of having to go to Syracuse or Utica are over. So the more people that we can put through that training program, the more successful and sustainable it will be. So if anybody on the call, if you haven't thought about that as an option, please reach out to anybody at the IDA or SUNY Canton any of your local developers, we can talk to you about that program. Matthew, how about you? Workforce situation.
We've seen a reduction in the amount of applications as well. We typically get 4 to 5 people inquiring about jobs every month. We saw that drop off quite a bit over the summer. And in the summertime, we usually hire temp labor that could possibly turn into a full-time job, basically just to cover for vacation loads. And it was difficult to fill those positions this summer. The biggest issue we have is the skilled trades, especially electricians. Anyone that's a carded AA electrician that's had either industrial experience wiring motors and transformers and 3-phase power. It's always when we have a retirement with one of our electricians, it's terrible trying to fill that. We actually just had a retirement, and I'm looking to fill an electrician's position right now. So if you have any insight on that, I'd love to hear it. And then just we have a full maintenance staff here as well. So millwrights, it's tough to find millwrights. And then we do have 2 truck drivers as well. One's been off on FMLA for a while, and it's tough to fill that position. Trucking in general is terrible in the North Country. Most people that are coming up here contract trucking to pick up loads. They come up empty. There's not a lot of two-way traffic. They're not coming up full, unloading, and then coming to the mill and loading back up and then driving south. So we always have a hard time getting trucks to pick up product in a timely manner.
Question that's popped up is, are you as companies utilizing the local university career centers as recruitment options?
So I've utilized Clarkson and Syracuse for engineering jobs that we're looking to fill for salary positions, and I've just started using SUNY Canton for their they've kind of had a storied electrical program there, that they have 2-year electrical programs. So I have reached out to them just actually this week to see if they have any people that are going to be graduating in May that would be interested.
Thank you. Chuck, how about you? Workforce.
Workforce, yes. We've had some challenges when we did have quite a few people leave, family reasons, personal safety reasons. They didn't feel safe leaving their house. They got on the unemployment and have stayed on it. We've gotten some people back, but overall, yeah, we've definitely seen a decrease in the amount of applications. Before, we would always say, hey, we'll let you know because we have 70 employees. Now we're at 45, but we really could use 60, 65, 70 again. We run 2 shifts, and a lot of times we find that our production numbers aren't what they normally are because we don't have hands. We don't have people standing out there. We've tried. I've actually worked with Lori. I've communicated with her on a few occasions, and she's put me in touch with some folks at the Department of Labor and also the One Stop Career Center in Canton. But I haven't seen anything come out of that. I did reach out to the people, but we're just not finding the right people. And yeah, it's been a struggle for sure. And as far as the local university career centers, I haven't, but I think that's my next route.
Okay. Michael, how about you?
I can certainly echo what the other panelists have said. We've seen applications drop significantly, in no small part because the front door is locked, so it has to be done virtually now. We've been fortunate, however, our employee base we have a really loyal workforce, and throughout the pandemic, we were able to pay that back somewhat. But even to 4 hours a day originally, and then 6 hours a day throughout most of the summer. We continued to pay our workforce for 8 hours a day. So we've obviously, under those circumstances, turnover has gone to 0. So now that we are back at full speed, we still have our full workforce and everybody's back in the office 8 hours a day. Yeah, any positions we need to hire for, it's a much longer effort, and interviewing's tough. We do much more screening remotely, and bringing somebody to the facility is a much bigger deal. So that's been a challenge.
A question for all of you. Did you utilize any of the stimulus programs, and did you have any difficulties accessing the programs? Why don't we go, we'll go backwards this time. We'll start with you, Michael.
Yeah, we did use the PPP. I'm sure that's going to be a familiar refrain throughout this group. And as everybody saw, that was a dumpster fire, especially because the requirements were so unclear at the beginning that we didn't want to get ourselves, I think everybody remembers, I think we had to certify that it's necessary. What the heck does necessary mean? We could probably get some sort of criminal loan at 20% for operating funds if we needed to. Does that mean it's not necessary? So we were slow to look for it, and then by the time we did, the banks were so overwhelmed that it became quite challenging to apply. But ultimately, we used some online platform to apply, got a loan through some no-name bank in New Jersey, and are all set. We're able to use those funds, and that went a big way, part way at least, towards keeping our employees fully employed and paid while they were only working a few hours a day.
Chuck, how about you?
Absolutely. We first applied for the EIDL, the Economic Injury Disaster Loan. We got that. I think they capped that at 10,000, so we got that. I want to say within 5 days of applying. And luckily, we worked pretty closely with our bank manager here in Messina at KeyBank. His name is Bob Labarge. He was fantastic in keeping us on top of what would be necessary, what would be needed from us for him to get our application pushed through for PPP right away. As soon as the application was released by KeyBank, I had it in that night, and I want to say it was less than a week. We had all the money that we could get. Who knows when we'll have to pay that back, which we won't because it'll be forgiven, but I don't even know when they're going to start accepting the forgiveness paperwork. But yes, we absolutely utilized it, and it was a big help for sure.
Matt, how about you?
We didn't utilize any of the relief money or that was available.
Pat?
Yes, we did. And it was a very, very good help to hold us on early on because we had no idea where we were going to stand through this pandemic. And it's been very good. The only thing I do see is along with it all came the ability to take out a loan, and we did. And now that you want to acquire equipment, there's a lien that goes along with that. So the government holds a lien. So anybody that has taken a loan has to realize that you're not going to be able to borrow from your banks until that is taken care of. So fortunately, we're in a situation to take care of it and continue on. But I really feel that for a lot of companies, we were fortunate enough to get picked for the PPP loan on the first round. And then when you start listening to the news of it running out, it had to be pretty scary for a lot of folks that weren't picked the first time around.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was. There were a lot of stressful conversations during those weeks.
Yes.
We want to keep this to about an hour, which is about where we are right now. I'm going to close with a question of my own to each of you, which is you have a collection of economic developers. There's some workforce providers, some college people on the call. Others will have access to seeing this. What can we be doing? What should we be doing to help you now and as we keep moving through this and hopefully start to come out of this? What can we do to help you? Now, Pat, we'll start with you and go backwards around the circle.
Well, I don't know if most of you folks realize, but I mentioned that the IDA has helped with the sawmill idea together, but they also were the main partner in putting the pellet mill together. So I would say as long as the IDA continues to be out there to help people like myself, and like you've done in the past, and hopefully you do the same in the future, I think you folks are on top of everything that you can do. And I think just plain keeping your office open to the public and which you have, I think is great.
So with that, we know we can edit out the first 58 minutes of this and just go from there. Thank you. I appreciate that feedback. Matt, how about you? What can the development community in St. Lawrence County and the North Country, how can we be helpful to you right now?
I think our biggest, you could help us the most with is finding skilled trades, helping us fill some of the employee things that are, it's easy to fill a general labor position. It's more difficult to fill skilled trades positions. So I see a big need for that coming up in the next 10 years as a lot of the union people that we're employing now, like Burns Brothers, or S&L, a lot of those guys are going to be retiring, and I can see a big shortage of skilled trades in the next 10 years. So we'll need help with that, filling some of those positions just within our mill, and then as contractors. So the other thing, and you've helped out a lot with our water project. That was a great help. So any kind of project work like that we need outside resources for, we'll definitely reach out to you.
Stay in touch and keep our eyes open. But what I will say is I know we have the Workforce Development Institute on the call. We have some representatives from elected officials. So I think it sounds like the importance of workforce and training can't be underestimated. I mean, obviously that's an issue, business finance, helping with market development, but workforce obviously as a key cornerstone. Chuck, how about you?
Well, as you know, we do utilize some of the business financing that was allocated or available to us through the IDA. And moving forward, we do have some grand plans that we would definitely like to have your input, have your assistance on. Especially with Tricia and with you, we did have the grant for the expansion, and I think we are looking to do even bigger than what was initially thought of. So just moving forward, I think that we're going to keep that in mind and make sure that we can get all the help we can from you.
Perfect. Thank you. Mike, how about you?
I think the biggest thing I guess the IDA and all the groups can do is to continue facilitating communication between businesses and from the political sphere down to businesses as well. For me, John Pinkerton's been invaluable. We were pretty much on the phone once a week or once every 2 weeks throughout the pandemic, and little nuggets of information he was able to provide me were real game changers at the time. And so going forward, that'll continue to be very valuable. It's a really important function that's doesn't have a flashy name necessarily, but it's a really big deal for manufacturers like us.
Yeah, a lot of times economic development organizations are judged by incentives or financial participation in projects. I don't think people realize how much of it is more conversational and sharing of information and ideas and connecting people together. Speaking of which, the four of you, I cannot thank you enough. Every one of you provided really good information, very interesting, very informative. Thank you for spending the time doing this. I know everyone has plenty to do right now. There's a lot going on. So for you to be willing to put together the information you did and then to share it with everybody is very much appreciated. Thank you as a full panel. It was better than I could have hoped for it. Very, very, very great content, and thank you for your participation.
Thank you for the invite. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Pat.
It's great, different areas of the county, different industries. I think, Chuck, you might have said it earlier. People do not understand just how broad and how deep and how advanced our manufacturing sector is in this county. There's things made here that are unique and that are sold all over the world and are in products that people utilize every day and have no idea that that some of it was made here or a key component of things were made here. And I say this, anybody who'll listen, we punch above our weight in St. Lawrence County when it comes to manufacturing, for sure. For a county of our size, there's it's a very dynamic industry, and obviously having leaders like the four of you and your companies as part of our manufacturing sector is a strong reason for the success that we have as a truly leading manufacturing county. So thank you again. Thank you to the Chamber, the Small Business Development Center, Trish and the New York Power Authority, the Center for Advanced Materials Processing. There's a working group that focuses on manufacturing. Hoping, and I know by the attendee list, many of them participated today and got to hear this information firsthand. So I hope that there's ways that we'll be able to take some of the information you gave us and find ways to help create solutions or some kind of mechanisms for making your lives easier and your operations a little more efficient. With that, and I think we've exhausted our time and our questions. I thank everybody again and wish everybody the best. And if anybody has any questions about anything they heard and you want to reach out to us, reach out to Brian Norton is on the call, Lori Sibley, John Pinkerton, reach out to me. Any of us at the IDA, we can help connect people together and certainly can do any post-session follow-up that's necessary to help anybody. With that, thank you, everybody. Good afternoon. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thanks, Pat.
Thanks,
you.
everybody.
Take care.
That was
All right.
great. Thanks.